going. Okay. So I will quickly, I'm going to turn our first slide here. I wanted to start off by saying that Leslie Ehler, who is the graphic designer that I get the privilege of working with here at the University of Illinois, is attending a concert for her kindergartners this morning. And so she is on her way, but they got started late. Imagine that. And so she'll just kind of pop into the conversation here when she arrives. But I'd like to begin by introducing Sean. Sean is a graphic designer for the American Hereford Association, and he has been awesome getting to know him better. I think he's got a lot of fun tips and ideas for you guys, and has a fun sense of humor, and so I think you'll enjoy visiting with Sean here today. I also want to introduce you to Steve. Steve is the creative and web development director for the National Swine Registry, and I was fortunate to get to work with Steve for many years when I was at NSR, and he too is a lot of fun. I just feel like this is probably, no offense to any of our past speakers, but probably the most fun group of people we've been able to work with so far. They've really taken this job seriously. They've had several conversations and chats, and honestly, I think they've enjoyed getting to know each other better too, and that's what this is all about. So I'm going to turn it over to them to introduce themselves a little further and tell you a little bit more about what they do and the publications that they are working for. So with that, who wants to start?
I'll start. I'm Sean Jersett, and I work here at American Hereford Association, doing all the design work, and I work in collaboration with another artist here, Bruce Huxall. But what we're going to do today is kind of give you some main tips on how to open up InDesign and open up a file correctly, talking about all kinds of different things, such as the facing pages, the number of pages as you just open it, and why it's important, especially in signatures, like if you're dealing with those and you're in close collaboration with your press. Stephen, also pipe in anytime you feel like you've got some. But what we've got is basically I'm going to show a basic opening and the process of making InDesign. A new, I guess, we'll just make a 4-pager. Make a 4-page deal. So let's see here.
Well, real quick, let me introduce myself real quick.
Yeah.
Steve Weintraut. Like Jennifer said, the creative and web development director here at the National Swine Registry. The publication that I work on is the Seed Stock Edge. As a lot of you probably know, it's here at the NSR. We have for the hog breeds, the Yorkshire, the Hampshire, the Landrace, and the Duroc. That's what we deal with, and we put out our publication 9 times a year. So I deal, with the majority of the ad production, and then obviously the layout of the articles and anything else that does with that, and then any of the stuff that NSR puts out, print material wise or on the website. I have my hand in that, and also any of the if readers come to us with any like Borstud catalogs or any other promotional material, I have my hand in that also. So that just gives you a quick background of what I do. So, yeah. Sean, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, no, you're fine. All right, so what I'll do is I'm going to open up a new document, and we'll say 4 pages. But it's very important to click facing pages if you're dealing with a spread or whatever, and hopefully you guys know this, but some people don't. So we're just going to kind of cover all bases. So in a signature, you have a sheet of paper that is fed to the press, and that, depending on how it's folded and cut and I guess trimmed, they require different amounts of pages. So you want to make sure that you're printing on the right signature, and you know that from your press. Basically, we're going to go on a 4-page spread here, and we're going to show you some of the techniques in like threading text instead of just copying and pasting and doing your own text box. So we'll go ahead and open a new one, and this is a 4-pager, like I said, and I would start out by bringing open a text box. And in here, let's see, my text.
And I'm just going to interject while Sean does this. The stuff that we're showing you today is this way we do things is all you will find out if you don't already know with Adobe stuff. There's 18 million ways to do everything. We found that the easiest for us. So if you have a different way or a better way, please either chime in and let people know, or you might find your own way that's a better way down the road.
Right. We're just going to show you something basic just to kind of get you through. And what I've done here is I've made multiple text boxes, and I do not have enough text to flow through, so I will just paste and paste again. So basically, you've got your box here, and say down here you can see this red square, okay? Now this is a text thread, and when you're bringing your text into your document and you've got all of this, you know, all these things to do, all these different kinds of text and pictures and elements, you're going to want to make sure that you're, you know, keeping your text to wrap and flow evenly so that you can, you know, create paragraph styles, create paragraph or character styles and different things such as that. So what happens is you get this red box, and if you click that, then you go down to your next page, and I've already created this text box here. You just touch it, and it shows, or it overflows into it. So, and now we've got a complete deal. I don't think it's showing my text threads, but we will turn that on. But you can see how it's linking all the text, you know, so throughout. And then inside here, I also like to, you know, begin by creating paragraph styles. Like obviously this would be body copy. Paragraph styles is located over here in your dialog boxes off to your side in your tools. There's the styles, and there's character styles. Paragraph styles actually, you know, pertain to the entire paragraph and all the text in there. So you want to make sure that if you're going to do a bold word inside there, you don't want to apply a paragraph style. You want to create a character style. And that it's kind of nice because, like, say I want this one to be bold and, I don't know, maybe purple or something.
And why you want to do styles, and the reason that we do styles is first of all, it's a time saver, because you can set up how you want to do something and apply it to multiple things quickly with a one click, so to speak. And also consistency, and especially in a publication for like Seedstock Edge, I can set up I have a style set up for my articles, so the body copy is always the same. Subheads are always the same if you set it up that way, and you can transfer it between different publications and articles, and that way you don't have to remember that body copy is always 10 point. You know, Garmin Pro at, you know, at this lighting, blah, 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 blah. You just have to transfer that style, and you just have, it's a one click, and you know it's going to be right because it's always the same. It's a one click time saver, so you're not going to multiple palettes, going to the character palette and going click Garmin Pro, going down to the size, going 12 point, and then going, you know, changing the lighting and stuff like that. It's a one click, set up, done, just like he's showing you right now.
Right, and that's exactly what you're doing. You're assigning style.
Yeah,
but by one click.
You have object styles too, so you can do this with physical objects as far as color, shape, and stuff like that. I mean, as you get more in depth in InDesign, you can, you know, so like with object styles, you can apply a type style within the object style and stuff like that as you get more in depth into InDesign.
Right, but notice that it doesn't apply it to the whole entire paragraph. Now, if I create this header here and I do it in paragraph styles, which I would because there's a hard return after this line, that's when you want to apply a paragraph style that'll work for that. Like this one, we'll just call it header. And then I make sure I check down here where it says based on, and that it's not based on anything else, because if it is based on, you know, another item, if you change the other item, it'll also change this. So that can work well if you're working in subheaders and things like that you want to, you know, keep consistent. But I don't use it very often. But I work also more in advertising or advertisements instead of editorial. But I do a lot of editorial as well.
But so for editorial, what's nice with the styles too is you could come back later and you find out, well, hey, I decide I want this subhead at 10 point instead of 12 point. you change the style, it's just going to change every instance of that style throughout the whole publication.
Right.
So you don't have to go back and physically find every instance you use that style and changed it. It's going to change it throughout the whole thing, so you only have to change it in one spot.
Yes. Yeah. All right. So one other thing I wanted to show you, and this is as you're setting it up, you want to set up your margins and your bleeds, and you're customizing your workspace. And that's kind of what we're doing here. We're customizing. We're trying to figure out what we're going to do with all this text and how we're going to make it look. And I know this looks deplorable, but we're just going to have to deal with that because we're going to keep it ad lib. Now, so we're going to go into units and increments, and the reason why I choose picas over inches, and I think Stephen's the same way. But like Stephen said, to each their own. Everyone's going to have a different way. But I choose picas and use them because of the increments, and they're so small, where you can just use your arrow keys to go up and scale things. So, for instance, if I were to create a box here, and we'll give it a fill. Now this...
You could go way back to the old newspapers. If you don't know, familiar what pica is, it's a measurement that started with the newspapers.
Right.
So I don't know what it really started from or where it comes from, but that's where it comes from.
It's a great word. I even call my daughter a little pica. So...
Yeah. So...
Yes. Okay, so if I were to, I don't know, put something in here, we could also make it wrap around, make the text wrap around, but that's not where we're going yet. So to demonstrate why I like the picas, we'll just kind of go over up to the top where you got your width and your height, and I make sure that, say if I just want to change the width, I turn off the link so it doesn't link them together. So now I'm going to make it a little wider. And I can just go one at a time, or by holding shift and hitting up arrows, it goes even faster. So you got the low, and it goes faster. Now, if we had our units and increments set up as inches, you'll see how drastically that changes. I'll go ahead and change that. And where I did that was up in InDesign and then preferences and units and increments. So we'll change that. And I will show you the same exact technique, and I'm just hitting up. It's going in a much larger increment. So, and it's a little bit harder to figure out the point system on picas, but because it's got a P in there. But I think it works best for me, just because it's so specified. We'll delete that, and that's units and increments. Now, if you want to switch back to the other and do master pages, can you do that, Stephen? Are you available to do that, or should I just continue?
No, I can do that. Hold on one second here.
Awesome.
I'm here too, guys, just to let you know.
Awesome. Hey, Leslie.
Oh.
Sorry, I was a little late.
Oh, it's good. You're good.
Okay, hopefully everybody can see my monitor now. And I'm going to talk about master pages here real quick. And what master pages are, let me go back to my one screen. And real quick, talking about customizing of your workspace here. You can see I have a whole bunch of different workspaces I can choose from. Depending on what I'm doing here. I have one set up for my one screen. I have actually 3 monitors I work off. Some people do have more, some people have less. But on the pages palette here, right here, let me actually get these bigger here so maybe people can see them better.
I'm not seeing your stuff, Steve.
Right.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, one other thing about master pages is when you're setting that up, make sure you've got it set up, and he'll show you the bleed.
Can you see me now, Jennifer?
Yep.
Yep, looks great.
Okay. Right here on your pages palette, this is where obviously we have 2, 3, 4, and 5 of the pages, and up here at the top, these are your master pages here. You can have as many masters as you want. For this publication, I have right now just have just an A master, and I can show what this is on the master pages. These are the good place for things for master pages are things that you want on every page, such as in our publication we have this bar and this little thing with the word feature on it for our feature stories. This would be a good place to also you go to here up to sort of special character. This would be a marker for the current page number. So if I would put a page number there, it shows A. Since this is A master, it just shows a letter A. So I would copy and paste that and do that on this page. It would do the same thing over here.
And also notice this red text box, and that means it's on a different layer. And this layer is set above that blue layer, so that will always be on top. And even if he has a design on the blue layer, it will not come over that, and that's important for your folio.
Yeah, because you can see in the layers palette I had different layers set up. Actually, I should have. Actually, I need to cut these and put these on this color bar layer that will be above everything else. Sean is correct. That needs to go above everything else. So if you go back to the actual, I need to make them white. Sorry.
That's good.
Let's see here. I'm used to my 3-screen layout. I apologize.
We're so jaded.
Poor thing.
It's tough. I worked very hard to con my boss into getting me 3 screens. Honestly, I'm going to have to go to 3 screens for a second. I'm not used to where stuff is.
So we've covered text threading.
Now we can go look at it again. Okay, now you can see the numbers down here. Come on, back to where we are. Okay, there we go. So there we go. So, well, you get the point. But master pages are great for that. Now, publications, and where it really comes into play good is, especially when I'm laying out the whole magazine, I'll have an A master that'll have the black numbers, and I'll have a B master that'll have the white numbers. Mm-hmm. And so pages I have dark advertising on, I'll make B masters that automatically have the white numbers, and obviously the A masters will have the black numbers, and you can just drag the A masters on the pages you want the white numbers, and the B masters on the page you want the black numbers. So all I would have to do to make a B master is take these and drag them on here. Down here, this icon where you create a new page, and it makes a copy of them. You can do what you want to them, and it just makes a B master based on the A master. So you're basically making a copy and just with minor changes.
Right.
So, I mean, nothing too complicated, but, I mean, master pages are cool because things that don't change, you don't have to keep copy and pasting to a new page every time you make a new page. But if you would like, for your normal pages also, like, let's say I want to take this page and make an exact copy of it, instead of, like, making a new page, making a new blank page here. Making a new blank page here, and then going to this page, selecting all this stuff, copying it, going back to this page, pasting it here. All you'd have to do, honestly, is take this and you just drag it there. It makes an exact copy of that page. Also, a lot of times I'll do that for 2-page ads for stuff instead of going to the problem making a master, since it's just a 2-page. But other master page things that are good for are let me open up especially if you're in magazine production.
Well, when you're working with documents that have a large number of pages, and I use it for our magazine to do page numbers, I can still rearrange all the articles if I want to, but the page numbers will still flow numerically. So I don't have to worry about, oh no, I put page 13 on this layout and now I moved it and it's page 26. With the master pages, it doesn't matter. It's going to know the correct number order to put them in, so it will automatically change that for you.
And that's the nice thing about InDesign too, especially InDesign became really great when you can place the InDesign file in an InDesign file. This is our big, let me bring this palette over here. Once it lets me here in a second. I want to show you guys this. Come on, baby. Too much stuff going on my computer right now.
Yeah.
Come on. Come on. Okay, there we go. Let me turn off thumbnails, panel options. Okay, that makes a lot simpler. Okay, this is our big March issue. And if everybody can see, this is exactly what she just talked about. These are color-coded in 16-page runs, so getting back to what Sean was talking about with runs. So what we just talked about with moving stuff around, like if I want to move this run to, right now it's 51 through 66, but okay, we decided we wanted this run to go after this black and white run. Well, all we have to do is select those pages and move those pages. And now they're pages 75 through 90. The pages have moved, but the numbers have rearranged themselves. So that's the cool thing on the Pages palette. The Pages palette is pretty powerful. I think it's pretty cool, the way you can just move stuff around. And there's some, like you said, you can make these thumbnails bigger and larger. You can, and stuff like that. And like I said, you can color code stuff and all kinds of different stuff. So, I could be rambling. I apologize. But that's pretty much it for the master pages. I don't think you can put guides on there. So you have guides on every page that you want to stay the same, stuff like that. Anything you want on every page, master pages is the place to put it. That's basically what sums that up.
Right. Yeah, you don't want to use it for your designs. Otherwise, sometimes if you print, it won't show up. But if you're going to have extra pages, a bunch of pages, and you want something to be consistent throughout, put those elements on the master page, and that works. So, okay, let's talk a little bit also about bleeds. I'm sure a lot of us, we get camera-ready ads, and they go off the edge of the page, and they don't quite understand that you've got a margin that it gets trimmed off. So we need to, okay, we got opening a new document. I guess let's go through this. So we talked about this. I think we're on page, number 5, because we already covered that. Paragraph styles, character styles, and object styles. Okay. And then 5 is bleeds. Okay. And we already talked about the signature, so that's good. What I'll do here is present my desktop. So basically, you've got an area. Let me go down to another page. And so you've got this area. It shows a margin, and you can establish those whenever you open your document. Okay. Now, when building, you want to make sure that it's going beyond the edge, and this is what we call our bleed, is this area between this blue mark and this black here, which is the edge of your actual paper. This is your paper size. It's the way it's supposed to be. So you want to, if you're going to have a full bleed, have that. What's that?
I'm not seeing you.
Oh, really?
Anybody else?
Probably not.
No, I see the PowerPoint.
There you go.
Oh.
There we go.
Yay, okay. So this is what I'm talking about. Basically, this edge right here is the trim line. This is where your pages are going to get trimmed. So if you want the color or the background to expand over that, you make sure that it goes over and goes over enough to do that. Usually a pica is good. But this area right here, you do not want any text that's important to go outside of this box. This is your margins. But if we say, hey, we need more bleed, it's usually because this text is like going way up here, and that gives it the possibility of it getting clipped, and then it's unlegible, and then what's the point of your ad? So keep those inside. It's very, very important. Anybody else want to?
Every printer I've talked to for bleed, they say they want at least 1/8 of an inch.
1/8 of an inch, right?
Right.
All the way around, so.
Exactly.
So make sure that you guys are doing that if any of you are designers. It is important. Is there anything else on this? Leslie, do you have anything else you want to add to that?
Probably just, and I know we're going to talk about packaging at the end, but sometimes if you're just sending somebody a PDF file, you want to make sure that when you're creating the PDF that you want to include the bleeds, because if not, it's going to cut off everything else outside of your paper size, of whatever you set at the beginning for your page size. So if you are sending a printer or somebody that's putting together a magazine with ads, if they just want a PDF, you can mark under marks and bleeds, and you would just click use document bleed settings. And then Sean, did you go over that when you set up the page, including the bleeds? Because if there's no bleeds set, then you're not going to have bleeds with the PDF. That's
an important thing. I did not mention that, and I should have. But yes, clicking that will make sure that it's what you've already established. Right. For that particular document. So.
And another thing with some printers, a lot of times for the PDFs, you might want to ask them, is there a PDF preset that you can send me?
Right.
A lot of our printers, because a lot of them, they want crop marks, but they don't want the registration marks, or vice versa, or stuff like that. Or they'll have this is kind of getting technical, but they'll have a specific distance of how far away they want those marks from the actual document. They kind of get somewhat picky on some of that stuff. So if you deal with a printer a lot, you might want to just ask them, do you have a PDF preset you can give me? And then you can load that through the file menu of InDesign underneath PDF presets, and load that, and then you'll just be able to select that printer's PDF preset when you make that PDF, and all the settings are already set up.
Right. Okay, so I think every one of us has had a problem with fonts. That's one of the main reasons why I only work in InDesign when it comes to that, because Illustrator has given me so many errors and kickbacks from the press. So going from number 5 to number 4, we're talking about font tables, okay? There's all kinds of access to many different fonts, but if you do happen to have a problem with fonts when you send it to press, your best bet is to create outlines and then resend it through. But some of the places that you can look for these fonts are built right here into your libraries, and it's convenient. InDesign just put it on here, I think, with CS or CC, maybe it was CS6. But this is when we really started utilizing it. But there's so many libraries to be able to pick things up. It's amazing. So do you want to take over again, Steve, and show some of your information on these fonts?
Well, honestly, I don't use libraries for that as much, because we use Suitcase, because we use for that. I mean, I'm more than happy to. Let me see here.
I'll stop presenting.
Yeah, I mean, we have specific college fonts that we use, but I do want to add, if you do create outlines on your text, always save it as a different version, because if you create outlines, save it as the same file name and then get out of it. If you go back into that, you can no longer edit that text. It's viewed as an image with lines, as opposed to something you can just put your text tool in. So always make a separate copy with your outlines.
Well, I have a nice trick that it doesn't just involve InDesign. It also involves, 10 to 1, if you have InDesign, you also have Acrobat DC that comes with the Adobe Suite stuff. So let me share my screen here real quick. Let me show people. This is Adobe Acrobat, which complements InDesign so well. And if you're sending PDFs to printers, you're going to be using Acrobat with InDesign, in my opinion. And this is something that's very powerful. Let me share my, okay, can everybody see my screen now?
Yep.
It's loading.
Okay. Let me go to my one screen. First of all, in InDesign, for the font issue, let me close that, so I gotta get to up here. Okay. Where is yeah. Looking for the yeah. InDesign has this pre-flight thing too. This might help some people check for errors on type. So just doing the basic working. If you have something that's funky, you can play with it. But InDesign might be able to tell you if you have something that's not going to work from the get-go. That's one place you can go. But then let's say let me PDF this real quick. I'll do my real quick here. It shouldn't take that long. Almost there. Okay, can everybody see this in Acrobat?
Yes.
And once you pull this up in Acrobat, if you get to the pre-flight for Acrobat, instead of worrying about creating outlines in InDesign, if you go down to PDF Fix-Up, there's a thing here that says Convert Fonts to Outlines. In Acrobat, you can actually convert every font in that PDF file to an outline right there.
Yep.
So that way you have your original fonts in your InDesign file you're not messing with. Now every font in this file is an outline. And the pre-flight here also, because I get files in, I know we're going kind of off track, but I get files in from outside advertisers for our publication, and they're not always in CMYK. And this is, so at the end, when the magazine, after I do my final PDF, this is a place too where I can make sure, by converting to CMYK only, I can make sure every file in my PDF is a CMYK file. So this is another powerful tool that you can use to make sure that your file is ready for your printer and does not have any problems. So that's pretty cool. Now, as far as what Sean was talking about with the type stuff, yeah, the CC libraries. Sorry, I gotta go back to one screen. Sean, you're more used to it than I am. Would you be able to talk more about that?
About what's this?
The type library stuff for the Adobe, because I use Suitcase more than I use the Adobe stuff right now because I'm so used to that.
Yeah, cooler. let's see. I mean, that's for colors. And I think maybe we should talk about colors as well.
Color was cool. I mean, I know that, but...
Well, as far as fonts go, you can Google search anything and see if it's compatible. A lot of us use a different font host, kind of like I'm using Font Agent Pro, and it can give you a verification if it's corrupt or not. So, you know, sometimes we utilize different fonts, but like I said, there's some that are notorious with problems. You know, the Helvetica's clash between PC and Mac. And even between PC and PC and Mac. So a lot of times we got to try to find that common ground, but making those PDFs is great. I won't bore you with looking up where to find the actual fonts, because you guys, like I said, you can Google search that. I will present desktop here.
And some free fonts are okay, but I tend to stick, if I'm going to use a free font, I tend to stick with just like a heading. Maybe.
Body stuff.
Yeah, I would use, you know, whether it's your, you know, your magazine font or your, you know, your specific fonts. Like I said, we have specific fonts here in ACES that we use, so I don't veer off of those much. I always use those for body copy, but headings, you know, we have a little bit more room to do something fun and playful, so you don't necessarily need to buy new fonts all the time. So free fonts can be good for that, but I would definitely stick to just simple headings and things for free fonts.
Yeah, I mean, that brings the interest in by finding a newer font for your headline. But, you know, and then you could drag it off to the side and create outlines on that, and you shouldn't have a problem, even if you do have a corrupt font.
Right.
So, basically, I'm going to show you guys some effects. Say this is a little tip here that we'll do. As I build a box, I think everyone knows that you can, actually I better do this first. Sorry about that. I need to make sure that this is on color. Okay. Boom. This to be a color. And one of the nice things about this, the new CC, is, I mean, you're able to like take colors that you've been using in Photoshop or Illustrator, and it all saves in your library, so you get a plethora of different, you know, colors that you've created. So that's a unique thing. So basically, like, say you're going to build a text box here. I want to make sure that I've got a color established on that, and it doesn't look like it wants to cooperate. Strange.
The color sometimes goes down.
Yeah, it's a strange deal. I don't know. Okay, we'll try it anyway. We're going to open this. Okay, say I'm holding, I'm still holding and creating a box, okay? And if by hitting the arrows, if you hit up, and I've just created 2, I don't know if you guys can see that. Mm-hmm. Okay, 3, and then by going left and right, you can create more columns, okay? So now I've established this. I'm going to go ahead and give it a color. So that's just one little trick, and that's just using the arrows and yeah. So, and if you wanted to keep the properties completely even and symmetrical, you would hold Shift, obviously. But say for this one here, I wanted to do an effect. And what's kind of nice, and I know it's also got trouble and problems with the transparencies, is there are effects, and quite a few actually, really neat things to be able to do right here in InDesign. And so I don't know, I kind of, it's best to start it and do it in Photoshop and then flatten your image, just because it will have trouble. You know, if you got to multiply drop shadow on something in Photoshop and it's transparent and you bring it in, a lot of times that turns out really fuzzy instead of a nice deep dark shadow, or, you know, whatever you're trying to achieve. But the effects are, you can find them all over the place. They're under Object, Effects, and then you got your itemized stuff here. It's also found over here. If you double click, you can go on your whole entire object, which would include the stroke and the fill and whatever, or you can do just the stroke or just the fill. So like if I double click this, it brings that up automatically, okay? And here is a drop shadow, and we would click on that to be able to adjust the size and the transparency and, you know, make it a little bit more bearable. But say we've done that and established it, and we're like, oh, we want to apply it to all the rest of these. Well, you can do that by, you just hold this and you grab this effect and you drop it on whichever item you want. If you want to do all of them, you know, you just do all of them. So it's just one of those neat things. I found that out myself. I didn't even know that that was a deal. You could just grab the effects over here, the FX, and just drop it on anything. So going back to some of the problems that you have with transparencies, man, it can really be a detriment. So keep it simple. Do not, you know, go overboard on all this stuff. It's better to do it in Photoshop and flatten it and bring it in if you can. So,
hey, Sean, could you maybe show one more time how you made all those multiple boxes again?
You bet. You bet. Absolutely. I just wish it would take a color off the bat. Okay, here we go. We'll just do this. All right, so here it is. I am creating a box, and I'm going to hold Shift this time, make them perfect squares. I don't know why, but so now I'm holding Shift, and then I'm going to hit up, and now that's 2, and then down would obviously make it back to 1. So I'm hitting it 3, 4, 5 times, and then I'll hit over, and then I can sit here and still scale it big or small. But it's just a unique deal that I found to, you know, get things done pretty quickly. So, and they're all uniform, they're all completely the same. You can, you know, make it one ginormous, you know, grouping or whatever you want to do, and you can mass drop things in. Usually, that's kind of what I like to do too, is drop in multiple things into boxes like this. And if I had a list of pictures that wouldn't degrade our broadcast here, I would do that, but I didn't prepare that, so I'm sure it would be really slow and glitchy, and so we'll skip that. Oh, as far as these fonts, a lot of, or I'm sorry, not fonts, colors. If you look over here, you'll see registration black, okay? That is not for us, really. That is more for the crop marks and things that the press would use. Do not use registration black when you're making your fonts. Definitely not. And do not use it for your artwork. Just use regular black. And as far as the deep black that we all use, we all have different formulas for whatever works best with our press. I use, for instance, 65, 53, 51, 100, CMYK, and that's our deep black. It's something you do not want to use on something as intricate as a font. So only use that in design in an actual objects instead of fonts. That's a big deal, big no-no, because you're trying to register 4 different colors. It will look bad. So only use black for your copy if you're going to use black, and keep that deep black for design objects. Let's see.
Colors, Sean, did you guys go over like importing like swatches, or how you can load like paragraph and character styles, and how you can load all of that kind of stuff if you have?
Let's do that. Let's go ahead and do that real quick. Okay. Say I wanted to. I have some libraries that it automatically saves to the web. As you create libraries, I don't know if anybody does that. I do it for multiple magazines, and I'll just make minor alterations to it so that I have a master page set, and I can just simply drop things, elements from that magazine into it, or that, what's it called? Directory is usually what it is. So like this element, this is something that I did earlier this year, and it's always there on tap. And I've got multiples of those. Let's see here. It should be.
You can load all your styles. You can load from another file.
From another thing, right? You can go. What is it?
Sort of like paragraph styles and say load styles.
Yeah.
Oh, you just want to do that? Okay.
Swatches, paragraph, character styles, any of those.
Right. So you could go to another document and you say load paragraph styles from you know, a different document that you've been working on.
I load hours from one magazine issue to the next because
Exactly.
since I use basically, you know, the same, especially for body text and, you know, things that are italicized, quotes, things like that. I load them in from one issue to the next.
Sure.
And I do the same with a lot of documents with our color palette. I created just an InDesign document with a bunch of colored blocks like you have there, Sean, with all of our colors from our style guide, and I just named it, you know, Aces swatches or something. And so when I'm working on a document, all I have to do is import my swatches, and I have all the colors, so I don't have to sit there and type in all the color values for all of our swatches.
Right. Yes.
Favor.
And yeah, I've been building those in Photoshop for a while, and InDesign takes them and it accepts them so easily. But yeah, like what I just showed, I would go to paragraph styles, and I would go to, you know, load, and I would load a text style or load a paragraph style, and then pull it from whatever document that you're thinking. Like we have pedigrees, and I would just bring that in, and that would be on my desktop, but I could easily set things up that have the tabs, and it would automatically format. It's just about the ease of the simple click. It really is when you're dealing with all of this information and the workflow. We have tons of workload, you know. I mean, all of us do. That's why everything's so crazy all the time, but this definitely has eased the pain a bit, I gotta say. So yeah, here's a pedigree style. And it would come in, and I can pick, you know, pedigree, small, and the basic. There's things you can do. So I'm going to check all of them, and now it's showing up over here. Okay, over here in my paragraph style. So if I wanted to, I could make all this a pedigree. So, but obviously you see this kept the case, the character style. But obviously we don't have that font open, so it's not getting it. I have to do some adjustments for that. But I don't need to. So we've got number 3 done. Number 2, how to use black. I think it's time for the number 1, which is packaging, and then we can have some questions and answers. But do you have anything open, Leslie?
Yeah, I've got something.
Let's turn it over to you then. I will stop presenting.
Okay. Can everybody see my desktop?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So here's just, you know, 5-page article. So this is really important when you're either packaging something to send to a printer, or if you are sharing documents with somebody else, whether it be in your office or remotely, or using a file share site like we use Box here. If you're going to share your InDesign file with somebody, you need to package it, because if you don't, if you just email somebody an InDesign file and they go to open it, they're going to get all of these errors saying, you have missing fonts, you have missing images, and it doesn't know where anything is because it remembers the path of where you pulled that photo or that font from. So when you go to package it at the end, you're going to come up here to File, and there's a little thing that says Package. You're going to click on that, and then it will tell you with your images. A lot of times, especially if you get images from a professional photographer, it's going to tell you that they're RGB because I just haven't changed these photos yet to CMYK, which is what a printer is going to need. But it will let you know that, or it will let you know if there are some missing, meaning maybe you placed a picture and somewhere along the way you moved where that picture was located. So it's going to tell you this picture is missing, and so you're going to have to go and link it back to wherever that file is located. So just for this, I'm going to hit package anyways, but normally I would go back and change my photos to CMYK. It's going to tell you that you have to save your document. So you hit save. Tell it where you want it to save. And then InDesign will do the rest for you. Just keep clicking through. I don't do anything specific with any of those, like instructions. I'm not sure if, if you do, Sean, or if Steve does.
No, I usually just name it the same as the file, but other than that, I do not usually change it. I have a couple times.
Package files anymore,
I
so.
don't change any of this other stuff. I do like to include the IDML file. That is because if somebody's working on a different version of InDesign than you, then they can still open up the IDML file. And then I also include the PDF. You hit package, and then it's pulling all of my fonts and all of my photos and anything that I placed into InDesign. And after this is done, I'll go and show you what it's doing. Okay, so here is the folder right here, and you can see it's got my IDML, my InDesign, my PDF files that it created for me. It's got all my document fonts, everything that I've used. This is where it would have instructions if you do, if you do want to put something specific in there. And then links to all of my images that I used in the file.
It's very important to send that entire packaged file.
Yes.
Very important. So, with that said, do any of the 17 people there want to have any questions for any of us? Anything we can reiterate? You can just hit that little box over here. Okay. Now doing freelance.
Are there any other questions from anybody? I know that several of us, normally I like to do a poll to figure out kind of who's on the call and what types of roles they represent. And I think there's several that are finding their way into needing to do more and more design all the time, and I consider myself someone who needs to go in and not mess up the file, but sometimes needs to be able to make edits or a new version of an old thing. So this has been super helpful to me. But any of you more experienced designers, are there any other tricks or tips that you guys have that you'd like to share with the group before we go?
Well, looks like somebody does have a question. It says, I know there's a way to change styles and colors on each text box just by highlighting and clicking, but they haven't mastered it yet. Can we show how to do that? Are you wanting to know just how to change a color for text? I guess I'm...
you could set an object style. You could set up an object style.
Yeah, I guess it depends on what you're wanting to change.
And feel free to unmute and just talk if you want to, Maggie. I don't know if you're in a place that you can do that or not.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So I know how to use paragraphs and character styles, but I think there's a way, and maybe it's just with the color, but if there's a box and it's almost like you can click on one and then hit all your other boxes and it automatically changes without actually manually setting that style for it. Does that make sense?
It does. I don't know what that would be, because I just create an object style for things like those boxes I did earlier, and those would be like photos and whatnot, and say I wanted to change them all, I would apply that style once I developed how I want it to look, and I would create an object style, and then any box that I bring in after that, I could just click that, I've got that box highlighted, then you just simply click that style, and it should apply it like instantaneously.
Are you talking about something like this, how I just, clicked on the text boxes and changed the background color?
I think in one specific example, I was trying it. I had a graph, and it had, I had all different numbers, like years, in text boxes. So from like 1925 to 2015, and right. I needed to change without highlighting and changing the size manually. I was thinking there was a way I could highlight the first one. Like I've seen the trick done, but then I didn't ever use it, so now I've lost it.
You can go into, if you go underneath edit and you go underneath fine change, it's Control F, or Apple, it's I forget what Apple is.
Right.
It's Command F.
Mm-hmm.
I'm showing it right here on my desktop.
Yeah.
Right.
Go there. There's once you click on that, now that obviously you can do text, but then there's also
objects. Yep.
Objects.
So you could.
You have to tell it the specific formatting you want it to find, and then tell it the specific formatting you want it to change into. That's the only other thing off the top of my head I can think of.
Yeah, fine change is very, very key.
Other than just, just like selecting multiple things, holding down your shift key and, selecting a bunch of things.
Mm-hmm.
And then, changing the color of the text or something like that.
So are you actually talking about taking your text box and you were making a graph, you said, and you wanted some of the background to change to do other things? Is that what I'm saying?
Yeah, actually the number. So when I put the graph up, my fonts were a certain size, 12 point or whatever, and then having to move things around and decide, okay, now I want it to be 10 point. And I'm pretty sure there's a way that I can change that. And maybe it's with styles. Like if I need to edit my style to 10, and then I can just click on each box and it automatically does it without actually highlighting everything.
That's exactly right. And if it's, like I said, in the line and you don't want to change everything else and it's just your numbers, you can define that. But you want to do it in character styles, yes.
Okay. All right. So
then, yes, but just make sure you establish your first one, because it won't apply if you thought about it later. But that's where, as you're building your document and you open it up, that's where getting everything set up for you is very, very key. But yeah, applying that stuff, just getting it ready that'll help a lot. But you should be able to change that just like by redefining the style. That's you got that option. You just redefine style to your new format.
Okay, we also have a question. Is it important to change photos you pull into CMYK TIFF, or can you pull in RGB JPEG files if you're going on a press? Honestly, in my experience, it depends on the printer. If I have RGB files in a photo that, in a file that I send to a printer, a lot of times they will come back to me and say, these are RGB, either we can convert them to CMYK for you, or you can, because the press is going to run CMYK unless you're doing, a 5-color job, or if you're using, like Pantone colors or something like that, or if you're doing digital. So they will look slightly different from an RGB to a CMYK.
Yeah, I guess in my opinion, it just depends on. If you're doing like a magazine where it's about a book of photography, obviously, you're going to want to make sure that you don't have a color shift when you do that. But like I just showed the Acrobat saying, if a slight color shift is not a big issue, that's one option. You can go in and do that yourself and take a look at it. We don't worry about it as much with us because we do get a lot of RGB stuff in. So, and we don't even worry about having it as TIFF so much. The thing with JPEG is obviously it's a loss compression.
Yep, it's a lossy file.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're only doing it once or twice, with the naked eye, you're probably not going to notice an issue. And just don't, keep opening it up, saving it, opening it, and saving, opening and saving. And if you're only doing it once or twice, you're going to be okay. And especially if file size is an issue for you, I save myself as a JPEG at like a number 10 is what I set myself as, just to save on server space, because it gets astronomical after a amount of time. But,
Yes.
it's kind of a personal preference.
Well, and one thing I want to point out too is you're actually saving it more often than you think. First of all, if you are getting it in an email, that JPEG has already been uploaded from its original, taken from its camera, downloaded to the computer. Then they've taken it and maybe manipulated it in some way. Then they saved it up into their email, and then their email brings it over to you, and it saves to you. So you're already looking at 4 times there. Then when you download it, that's saving it again. Whenever you bring it in, it's saving it again. So I highly recommend, as soon as you get it, just turn it into a TIFF. TIFFs are great. You can even make it a PDF if you need to. But TIFFs are great.
Saving it from email, it's just doing ones and zeros. It's not making it a new JPEG. It's just copying that information. It's not making it it's not recompressing it. Only when you open it up in Photoshop is it actually recompressing the file.
Oh, I've seen it change over and over just from I've seen the degradation from.
You could be right, though.
But I mean, because it rewrites the ones and zeros and copies it, but it's still rewriting, and that's where I've noticed the problem.
That's just how we do it, but what works for us doesn't work for everybody. So.
Right.
Yeah. I would say it doesn't really matter if they're TIFFs or JPEGs. Like I said, some of it will depend on the printer. Sometimes the printer will just say, they're going to either want to convert it themselves or they're going to want you to convert it to CMYK, just because that's what a press runs. So I would say if you have the capability of changing it yourself from an RGB to a CMYK, then I would just go ahead and do that.
Yeah, especially anything that has a lot of red in it. So.
Any other questions?
Well, I just want to give you guys a big thanks. I know that you've put a lot of time into this, and I appreciate you thinking through these ideas and sharing your expertise with us. And I hope that we can engage you in future chats as well. And so I appreciate everybody for sticking with us. I know we went a little bit long today, but hopefully you found it helpful. And if you guys have any other ideas or suggestions for design discussions that you would like to have, or any discussions, please don't hesitate to let me know. And again, we look forward to talking to you during our next chat. And thanks again, Leslie and Sean and Steve. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.